Well, it's a good evening from Queensland, Australia, the home of the mighty Maroon Rugby League football team after their victory last night, which would be equivalent to our guest team getting into the World Cup. So without further ado, further up, of course, they're all from the Northern Hemisphere tonight, right at the very top, none other than Andrena, Forrest, and it's a good morning and it's a good evening to you.
Hi, good morning, good day, good evening, wherever you are in the world, and welcome to Dreaming the New Dream. And we have a beautiful sunny day in England, heat wave predicted, so make the most of this beautiful weather. Today it's my pleasure to have Darren back again. But this time we're going to be talking about color, sound, vibration, frequencies, and all sorts of things like that. So welcome, Darren, and thank you for coming back onto the show.
Andrena, thank you so much for having me back on. You too as well, Jeff. It's an absolute pleasure to be back with you again so soon. You know, we spoke about it before, but didn't expect it to be so soon. So it's a great pleasure to be here and back on one of my favorite subjects. I don't often get invited to talk about these days because of other matters seeming more pressing that people want to hear from me. But sound is my one of my first loves. So it's great to be focused on that for once.
Yeah, well, sound is my passion as well. As you know, I've got that many blooming instruments. I'm like a one lady band. But anyway, yeah, so you're going to be talking about sound in a different way. I think you're going to be educating us differently. So carry on.
Hang on. The only reason you got an early start, after you got an early start, was we had the great conversation, and it morphed on the hour into the most amazing natural health with diatomaceous earth and amino acids. And it was a fantastic conversation. And then you got up me because you really wanted to talk about sound and vibration. And you weren't listening to the show. And that's why you've gone and pushed the barrow and made sure Darren was coming on. And we chopped and changed and got all these other guests and put them back so you get Darren on. So, you know, a woman actually ends up winning the day.
Right. Well, thank you for that. But yeah, we were going to talk about it at the time, but I have to say, you got me onto the diatomaceous earth and the amino acids, and I was full of aches and pains, and I have to say it's made such a difference. I feel so much better. So thank you for coming on the show, sharing about diatomaceous earth, because I know
powerful.
We all want to be the best version of ourselves, so that we can be of service to help others, especially in these challenging times now more than ever. So we could go into another health spiel another time, but highly recommend, or people listen to your previous show where you talk about health and wellness, and like now we really need to be doing the best we can. Water, cleaner water, and what we're putting in, and not so much carbs and all of these things, and especially working with sound.
Yes.
So let's keep on track.
Well, just one sentence on that, and one sentence is thank you for being willing to have a go and try them, because I know that we've all heard countless times this will make you feel better. And it's just like, yet another pitch on something to spend money on that I'm just going to feel the same with. So thank you for giving it a go, because that's been my thing along. Just give it a try. Honestly, I know you've heard it before. So thank you for having a go and noticing that they do actually make a difference.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, I got diatomaceous. I went straight on the phone and rang up Tina at fossilpower.com.au. Fossil, got Tina, $19, got it delivered here in Australia, and got onto a teaspoon a day. Yeah. And I followed your other advice. I got the amino acids. I got the Clive, your mate Clive said to get the iodine and the selenium and the chromium and vitamin C and mega magnesium. And I sent to Andrena, and I've said to so many people, these two guys have been the breath of fresh air. Fantastic.
Oh, thanks. Thanks. Appreciate that. Yeah. Because it's just filtering out stuff that is different. So thank you, both of you. But sound, let's stay on point.
Yeah. Let's get back on track. Shush, Jeffrey.
Yes. So, and then, Yeah, I mean, where do we begin, Andrena? Should we just begin about how I do it differently?
Yeah,
or
I think that would be a good start, because I've got a few questions that I wanted to ask.
Sure.
So carry on.
I've been practicing with him myself since my teens. I remember my old friend at the time, and in my late teens, coming up the stairs telling me it sounded like there was a bullfrog on the top floor as I was beginning my journey into playing with sounds. So that's still stuck in me. I think there might be a little bit of sound trauma in there, or sound shame around being called a bullfrog at first, but that was the beginning. Those were the early days. And it wasn't until I had other breakthroughs that sound really started to come online in me in new ways, where I became so aware of how it was moving in and through me. And I was aware a lot of work. There is a lot of use of words from other countries, and there's also a lot of use of instruments and stuff like that. But my sound breakthroughs were very much about this instrument, this. And my journey in it really is really about what used to happen when I used to invite people along to sound events. There was nothing more painful to me than hearing a bunch of quarter and half-hearted efforts at making a sound like and I'd just be like, oh my goodness me, save us, we're never going to get anywhere with this. And I'd found the same was in myself. And the little guided meditate, the little short introduction from my CD that's on the webpage there for people to listen to, is all about why it is we as Westerners, when we're sitting to do that, start so half-heartedly, unless we've done it before, or unless we're singers. And this is a big lifelong journey now that's led me to where I am, where I've realized it's because of how we view sound, how we think about it in terms of what it is to make sounds like that. So we were trained with a few acceptable ways of making sounds that other people would respond well to as toddlers. So we know about words, and we know about singing, and we know about like random sounds. But anything other than that, our mind has the conviction that it's nonsense. And it's to do with how words work, where they work like signposts. In fact, I think it was Buddha used to say words were signposts. And he would say, because we use them to point things out. So, I mean, in the view, behind you, Andrena, I could, well, in fact, I'll do it behind me because it's easier. So I could talk about the light, or the wooden ceiling, or the patio door, and I'm pointing them out to you out of everything that you can see in my field. So I can use the word to point it out. I can talk about the patio, or my hair, or my shirt, or I can go like this. And as long as it doesn't matter if you understand my words, as long as you're a human being somewhere on the planet, anywhere that is coherent, and I'm going like this, you're not going to know I'm pointing about my hair. And so we think, and it's deep in our psyche that we think all words have to obey that. And if they're not pointing to something, then they're pointless. And that's where the nonsense idea comes in, is we don't understand what these words and sounds are. And so our rational mind goes, this is pointless. Why am I doing this? This is stupid. And even if there's a tiny amount of that belief, it puts the mind out of alignment with the practice. It creates an observer, or it creates a non-participating component that's sitting there going, I don't want anyone to hear me. I don't actually really want to do this. What's this for again? And really, it means all these amazing promised benefits that sound can offer, which we'll get into in a moment, don't get realized. You might get a nice feeling of buzz in the body or something like that, but actual breaking through into deep states of silent states of awareness and presence, being able to very rapidly enter into states of group alignment and group sound, and creating single amazing celestial sounds within just a few minutes with people you've only just met. These sort of easily realizable benefits are not within your grasp if you're sitting there just going, ooh. And so I was trying to find a way to get around this. And I realized a lot of it is to do with, again, not just the fact that the sounds are pointless. So one thing is I celebrate that. I said, yeah, these are pointless sounds because they're not referring to anything. We're making them to change vibration in our bodies. And we'll get onto that in a little bit. You know, they're really what I call vertical sounds. So the words that we use every day in singing, we think words that refer to things, they're like horizontal. We point them out at things, whereas they're like offered to others. You know, we're communicating and sharing. But with these sounds, we're not doing that. We're not communicating and sharing. These are for us. And so in that way, we try and use them vertically in the body. It's not an outward transmission. It's something we're just trying to keep in our own field. And the more we get in, the more we understand this sort of difference because there's a distinct feeling that goes with it. We can really get a sense when we start to flip into our verticality, you know, that real vertical awareness. And that doing sound well brings us deeper into that, deeper into presence, deeper into embodiment, deeper into being right here, right now. And there's no faster tool that I've found out of all the spiritual tools in the world I've tried. There's nothing more effective and rapid results than sound. But you have to have a go. It's got to be proper. You've got to let rip at first to find out what it feels like, and then you can soften. Then you have to find the edges first, and then you can find your range within it. But if you're beginning with not wanting to be heard, then you're never ever going to find the range, and your body's never going to feel the stimulation of the vibration that's on offer by the particular sounds that people have been offered over the centuries and years. Now,
so you do your sound in the shower, do you?
You know where the best place to do it is? To learn about how it moves in the body. The absolute best place, without a shadow of a doubt, on the whole planet you could do it, other than a cave or a pyramid, is the bath. And I mean it. If you go into the bath and get your ears under the water, so you need both your ears under the water in the bath, and you start to sound, I guarantee you'll be blown away. It's mind-blowing because you can actually hear underwater what is going on in your body when you're sounding, because through the air, you can only hear about 20 kilohertz. So 24 kilohertz is what an adult can hear up to. But you can feel and hear much more through other materials. So in water, we can hear 100 kilohertz. So when you put your ears under the water, you'll begin to hear the other sounds that are in your sound that you can't hear in the air, but they are there. And when you hear them under the bath, I guarantee you will practice more. You will practice 10 times more.
I've not heard of that before. And I'm currently in transition. I haven't got a bath here, so I shall have to. That's the
problem. Wait. So many people don't have baths anymore. Find a friend with a bath and book a.
Oh, I do. Believe me. Wherever I go, I say, please, can I have a bath?
I just hope everyone out there, just like the diatomaceous earth, it sounds daft, but have a go. And it is transformative in your understanding of what's going on in your body when you are making sound, because that is really what it's about. Yeah, it's a phenomenal thing. It's an amazing gift to give yourself. So in the bath, ears under the water, make your sounds. We'll talk about some sounds you can use in a bit.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. I know when I went to America, and Joy trained me about using the voice. And when I started off, she'd say, right, make a sound. So I go, hey. And she'd go, open your mouth. And I go, hey. And she'd go, oh, for God's sake, where's your power? Open your mouth. And I go, hey.
Hey, there you are.
But, and I think I remember in the choir, you could be in the choir and she'd get you to sing something. She'd just go, no, no, no. But yeah, so you've got, I working with the voice. There's so many people are frightened to be heard.
Exactly.
Have got trauma,
exactly.
So I just send people my intro and their birth note, and I say, just tone to this and see how you get on.
Yep, because yeah, exactly. Oh, he's a great one. This is another thing. The thing is that for people who are wanting to look at their obstacles for showing up in life, for being a courageous advocate of your heart's intent and your spirit's wishes, sitting down to make a sound for 3 seconds will show you all of those obstacles. I don't want to be seen. I don't want to be heard. I don't want to be seen to be a fool. It's like, well, you're going to have to be all 3 of those things if you want to achieve your heart's desire. And there you go. You could be right up against it in 3 seconds with sound practice. You know, and it's like, this is not just about sounding. It really is about life, being seen, being heard. And the ability to work with sound improves both vocal courage as well as improving singing. But it is neither. It's not either of those things. It is not. And that's one thing I really hammer into people. This is not singing. This isn't, because you immediately get people's idea, I'm not a good singer, or I am a good singer, and then I'm going to sing this sound. And it's like, no, this is not singing. This is not overtoning. This is not words. We are hanging on characters and tones in the quest for pure tone in our bodies. And in a way, I call it, it's really masculine sounding. So I call it in singing, which I consider to be feminine sound, and I call it feminine sound because for singing to work on you, you must be completely open to receive and let it absolutely penetrate you and wash over you, and it will change your state. This is the opposite of that. This is masculine. So that's all about the shifting note. So music is about the shifting note and its effect on your state. This is the absolute opposite of that. And it is about the pure tone, unwavering, the quest for pure, unwavering tone for its effect on your state. And then in future, you blend together note and tone to unlock the key that is in sound. But you need to combine note with the quest for tone. And this is really what atonement is about. It's the state of pure tone, you know. And there's at one moment, yeah. So we say at one moment, but it's also, but we don't say at one moment. We say atonement, which is the state of being a tone, you know. And we look at words about that refer to our structure that are all related to sound, and we ignore it. You know, we talk about our body parts being organs. You know, it's an organ. It's a musical instrument. You know, everyone talks about composing themselves. Compose yourself. Well, that's sound. You know, decomposing is about sound. So we're composing ourselves before we decompose. This, you know, and we talk about our conduct. This is all sound. We measure space and volume. We call it a universe. You know, these are all sound-related terms that show that it is, and none of us question it, because this is about the fundamental relationship between sound and the manifest world and universe. You know, it's absolutely fundamental. There's a really interesting thing, and I usually begin my sound journey on this word group with people, and it's really interesting that if we look at words like the universe, the Big Bang, the word, like in the beginning was the word, atonement, you know, at one mint, and in tune. This is a really interesting word group, because those words are all about, they're all sound related words. Big Bang, you know, the word, universe, in tune, they're all about sound. But when we use them is when we're at the absolute edge of our ability to conceive, our ability to think, our ability to express. We cannot conceive of what is beyond the universe. We just build up other universes and call it a multiverse, but we can't conceive beyond this notion of universe. The Big Bang and the word are both talking about creation. And so you've got Western science saying, oh, in the beginning, oh, it was a bang, you know, which doesn't matter about the explosion of matter. A bang is a sound. You know, in the beginning was the word. A word is a sound. So Western science and Western religion are both saying in the beginning it was a sound, but they're just disagreeing over whether it was an organized sound, a word, or whether it was a random sound, a bang.
A vibrational frequency.
Exactly.
If I could just butt in there.
Yeah, of course.
I was listening to a talk yesterday, and he was saying that in the Hindu, the Om is the God word, and it was the length of the Om was 7.32 centimeters, and which is the exact distance between each chakra. Wow. So I'd never heard of that before, but
I haven't heard of that either.
Yeah. So
deep
that was
wisdom, deep
Pardon?
wisdom, deep wisdom from people who had a lot of time and less distraction to sit and feel what's happening in the body when working with these sounds. Exactly that. This is where the other ones, in tune and at one minute, are all about producing that level of knowledge and wisdom. You know, it's incredible distillation. You know, another thing, we'll get into cymatics in a bit, and it's amazing what happens in matter when humans make that sound. It changes shape into a beautiful shape when we make that sound. But just to finish that point, that so in tune and at one minute are terms that we use when we're at the limits of our ability to share feeling, when we're so overwhelmed by connection data that all we can offer people of, oh, I was connected to everything, it was at one minute, or oh, I was in tune with everything. We don't have anything more to offer for something that is a significantly larger experience than those words, you know. And so my point, and what got me, what tries to get me to get people to go deeper into sound, is by realizing that if at the edge of our ability to think and express ourselves, we're using words related to sound, the edge of the universe, the beginning of creation, the edge of expression, then by understanding sound more, we can break through those barriers of conception and expression. And I call it breaking the sound barrier, you know, and breaking the sound barrier is by us understanding what lies on the other side of sound, which is to where we are now, almost irrational, you know, because we are through into another aspect of our beingness, basically, at that point. But sound is the doorway to all of that. You know, it absolutely is. And one of the things I think we've got to do in the West, especially the West, especially Westerners, is to get over this notion that our culture and ancestors and history are so corrupt and infested with darkness that if we want to find authentic, pure pathways to connection and atonement, that we have to import them, use other people's, resurrect ancient practices as if something was lost. And in sound, nothing has been lost. And I think one of the problems we've got is when I'm asking people to sit as a group and we ask them to say, do the Om, or we ask them to do something else, immediately they've got a cultural overlay coming in that they're chanting some Indian word and blood. And just there's a whole host of mental noise there that gets in the way of what is happening. So I smash through all of that and say, no, sounding comes from a common ancestor. It doesn't belong to any culture. The ability to make vowel sounds, to change state, belongs to no culture. And the relationship between the O sound and the sound belongs to all humans. It's not a word. It's about realizing sounds and internalizing sounds. That's why we put an on the end of most mantra or most sounding, is because when you're doing like a vowel sound, like ooh, the sound is always going out. It's a realized sound. But when we're doing the that's the internalization of the vibration. Really and truly, they're not words. None of them are words. When we get lost in other cultures' words that they've made out of these tones, we get lost in the noise of it. It's like, no, the quest is for pure tone, composing yourself, pulling yourself together in that sonic way, as far as I'm concerned. And when we shatter through all that cultural noise and say, look, nobody owns tying a skin to a piece of wood and then hitting it to make a noise. That was made in every continent. That doesn't belong. That's a common ancestor. So you're not appropriating another culture to use those practices. You're maybe relearning something that we had forgotten from one of our cousins or brothers and sisters, but it's only to rediscover our ancestral knowing. It's an our genetic code that comes alive in response. Going, I know this. I know these sounds. Why does my body come alive in these sounds and these rhythms? And it's because, yes, it's in the code, it's in the genes, it's in our history, and we're reclaiming it. But the key is, and I discovered this when I was visiting natives, and that is they're all up for us sharing the practices and joining them and taking away the remembrance. But they don't want us dressing like them. They don't want us trying to walk in their shoes. That's my understanding from the elders I've sat with.
Mm.
They want us to help us remember and reconnect and heal, but so that we can find our own path again. And sound can help us do that when we just reclaim that it's ours and say, well, actually, thanks for some of the good pairings of vowels and consonants, but we have these vowels and consonants anyway. Thank you so much. And we use them all anyway. So we're going to use your signs of pairing them together to reclaim our own authentic knowledge and wisdom that comes from being in these feelings like you have, the feeling of what it feels like after the sound, what it feels like during the sound, what it feels like sharing the sound with other people and with nature, and the feedback we get and what happens in that. And then we build up our own empowered knowing about the worth and the value of sound as something that's ours and native to all humans.
And when you talk about inner toning, because I say to people, like the bumblebee is like, you know, if you close your eyes and cover your ears and do your and you hear your sound and you send it with intention to a part of your body, it's really powerful.
Very powerful.
And also, especially for children, when they come in from school and they're all hyper, get them to play bumblebees, and it sort of brings them back in and grounds them in. And you know, it's really powerful to play with.
Yeah, well, you've picked on a particularly powerful one there by picking a bumblebee vibration rather than so people might use a letter or character to get to that, but some might use an some might use a bzz, some might use a z, but they choose that themselves. But the key is, what I like about what you've done there is you're getting it out of that word frame. And that opens up the pathways of freedom with the sound in the body. And I had a connection with, I work a lot with nature spirits, and I had a connection with the bees a number of years ago. And what you say really ties in with what they told me about their purpose, which was, you know, geopathic stress, where horrific events happen and it leaves a residue. And the bees show me what they're doing is restabilizing the field. It's renormalizing the field back to blueprint. So that's a beautiful invitation for them to align with that sort of function of the bee, because that's exactly a good medicine for that situation you're talking about.
Yes, so I get in my workshops, I get everybody to do the bumblebees. I say, right, we're all going to be, and you know, and then you're this massive buzzing going around, but you can feel the vibration coming off of everybody.
Because they're more willing to have a go, because you've told them you're making a bee noise that you're not going to, and it's not singing. If you told them you were going to sing, you would have got this half-hearted, you know, rather than people going, getting right into it, you know, because you really need people to get into it. I mean, there's another word in the word groups that I've mentioned. There's so many words that we use that relate to sound, but one of the key ones is to do with why it's important to make the sound loud, why it's important to feel the vibration in your body. And it's to do with what you said about Hindu philosophy earlier, and also science, really. So if you look at Hindu philosophy, it says, paraphrasing, the fundamental building block of the universe is the Om. Behind all that is manifest, you will find that which is Om. But if we look at Western science, what Western science says is the fundamental building block of the universe is the At-Om. And behind all that is manifest, you will find At-Oms. And that implies something at the state of Om. And I like to say to people, have you ever seen an Om? And I'll say to them, have you ever seen an atom? It says, how would it be if what we were looking at was two different ways that humans have explored that which we find ourselves in, and they've come to the same conclusion, one through inner space and the other through outer space, but they've arrived at the same point of saying, this thing, Om. You know,
Tom, I like that one. I'm not thought that. Very good.
Well, that's it, because that's what we're studying. You've got to make the atoms move. And then when you let rip and let those atoms move, they change state. And this is where the science of cymatics comes into it. So anyone, CYMATICS, go and watch Hans Jenny's original videos. Don't watch the newfangled ones. There's all these modern ones. There's over 1 million cymatics videos on YouTube now from people making them at home. But watch Dr. Hans Jenny's original 3 pieces on cymatics, and if you've never come across it, it is mind-blowing. And it's about how matter and liquid change shape in ordered ways in response to sound. Now, why that doesn't seem important until we look at the actual science of enlightenment. And this is really what it's about. And this is why people achieve deep states in the silence after the sound. So it's really important. It's not just about the sounding. It's about the deeply being in the silence after the sound. If possible, for as long as you were sounding, if not longer, be in that silence. It is the yin and the yang of the sound with the yin of the being in the aftermath of the sound, because that's when the cymatic effect is taking place. That's when the reordering of the atoms take place and the science of enlightenment kicks in. So what do I mean by that? So enlightenment is really light is light. It doesn't matter, you know, it follows the same laws at every level. And when we look at it on the physical level, and so what I mean is visible light. So in visible light, when you're looking, see grass, you know, you probably heard it before, but we'll just unpack it a little bit. That grass isn't green. It's every color except green. And that wood isn't brown. It's every color except brown, because what's happening is the tree or the grass is absorbing all the other light in the spectrum and it's reflecting green. The tree is reflecting brown, and we see only reflection. We never see the substance. That's like the real dark matter. The real dark matter is all the light which is absorbed, and all the rest is reflected, refracted, bounce off at an angle, which is glint, you know, things like glint and glare, or it passes right through. Passes right through. And that law applies at all levels. Some is absorbed, some is reflected, some passes right through, and some refracts. But we just throw that in there to be thorough. There is two things that determine whether the light is absorbed, reflected, or passes right through. Only two things. And that applies at every level. And so the two things are vibratory state. And the second thing is the state of organization of the receiving substance. So glass refracts a little, lets everything else through. And that's because the molecules in glass are randomly arranged. And it's their random nature that lets the light pass through. So when people are saying, and they read in the spiritual text, oh, the light of the soul in the universe is within and around you. You don't have to go anywhere. You don't have to do anything. It's all right here. It's like, well, great. Where is it? The state of organization and vibration of the receiving substance of my mind and of my awareness isn't, at the manifest levels, isn't organized enough to absorb that light so that I can conceive with it and see it. Instead, it bounces off or passes right through because of my disorganized mind, my disorganized emotions, my low vibratory emotions, my unresolved trauma causes it to pass right through or bounce off. It's all there. Sound requires no conscious process other than the unwiring I've been talking about to make us be willing to have a bloody go. It requires no preamble other than letting rip and going. And you can start to make that change. And that's it. You start to change vibratory state. And so the reason people get these deep states after sounding, or when they go to somebody who's doing chanting or sounding, and they be in the aftermath of the sound and they enjoy that sound bath, is because they're enjoying a temporary reorganization and upliftment of their receiving substance. And so the more you're willing to proactively work with changing the state of organization and vibration of your receiving substance, the more you're going to have these experiences of temporary moving towards permanent alignment and reception of intuitive impulses, actual light, actual auric vision, or whatever seeing shows up in for you in your natural sort of predilection, that will naturally come online. So this is why I like to say to people, sound is one of those things that it doesn't matter what else you do, this is going to help it. It doesn't matter. This is like, you know, it should be part of our sort of regular self-care, MOT and servicing of our vessels, is to blow out the cobwebs, just like going for a run, blow out the cobwebs with some sound, get our state reset, and then off and engage in the world.
And like, I was just thinking about, you're talking about the body as organs, because like I was just thinking about your lungs. So you've got your pipes, your wind pipes, like
that's right,
your flutes, haven't you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
it's all there, and when we get those words, it ties into embodiment rather than this sort of up here practice. It's like, whoa, right here, yes. Right here in the body, right? The spirit is in the body, not the traumatized body trying to like disappear into spirit, you know, which we have to all deal with that phase in ourselves. You know, it's like, oh, it's too painful here, I want to be up here. And it's like, no, this, bring it here, that'll clear out the cobwebs, you know. So it's funny how you were using the bee example earlier. What I do with people is, so I don't talk about chanting or use any of those words or anything like that. I like to talk about like character development and just we're just looking at the alphabet. All we're doing is looking at the alphabet. That's it. We're just going to look at the alphabet, and you know, it's pretty cool. There's all these characters, and actually, like our lowercase alphabet is actually deeply native. And it's just because we don't say the characters properly. We don't really say consonant sounds properly. We usually slip a vowel in there. And it's like, no, a true consonant doesn't have a vowel in it. So when we are, so if we said, say, a lowercase k, for example, would really be, which is like two stones hitting each other. Or a lowercase s is really just, which is like the wind in the grass. Or a lowercase p. Just a drop of water on a leaf. And the lowercase z, straight from the bees. All of our, so we've been taught our alphabet and characters in a disembodied way, in a disembodied culture, and then we believed all of that was disembodied and rubbish. And so we started hunting other cultures to say, well, what have you got that plugs in? Because ours doesn't plug in. And it's like, no, we just haven't been shown how to use it. It does plug in. It plugs in beautifully. So what I do with people is say, well, we're just going to do some characters and say, right, okay, well, how about you give me your of pain? How does it sound like when you hit your finger with a hammer? You know, ah. All right, you know, and what about the of realization? Or the of a cute baby. You know, and you've got the of shock and surprise. And this is the character of it's spectrum. It's huge. It's just one. Huge. And no matter where I am in the world, if you're another human being and I make those sounds, you're going to know exactly how much I hurt myself, exactly how cute I thought that baby was, and exactly how big the realization was, whether you speak my language or not.
Interesting.
Embodied character. Our characters are always embodied. Of a nice meal. Everyone knows how much you enjoyed it. And then, as I always like to say to people in the group, we'll do the and we'll do the, you know, now give me your oo of pleasure. And what's really interesting is when I've got a group of people doing this, like maybe 100 people in the room, and I say, give me your oo of pleasure. There is a micro pause. It's amazing. It's beautiful because there's a part of, and it's usually the women, there's a part of them that knows they can't make that sound without giving it away. You can't give me your real oo of pleasure without feeling it, And dare you give that away in a group space with people you've never known, your real ooh of pleasure. So everyone gives me their ooh. And I'm like, that's not your ooh of pleasure. That's not your ooh of pleasure. But we know that's the point. It's deeply known. And so we begin, just forget words, forget them, just ignore them. That's where we start making sense and nonsense. With characters, we're just looking at the alphabet. We're just looking at a couple of characters, and these belong to us. They don't belong, these are vowel sounds that belong to all humans. They came from common ancestors. So then, from that place, when I say to them, you know, it's like, well, and this is what's missing in our communication is embodied character. Embodied character. And we wonder, oh, well, I told them all about my hopes and my dreams and my aspirations and what I wanted to change, and nothing changed. Nobody did anything. Nothing happened. And it's like, well, could they feel you? How embodied was your character? Could they feel you like feel you with your ah of pain or your ooh of pleasure? Could they feel that that's what you felt, that that's what your spirit was trying to communicate and connect with? No, because you're afraid of being seen and felt. Let's just be honest about that and just park that, be honest about that and say, well, this is one of the ways that we can help start to make a science of that, you know, actually make a science of it where it's like, okay, you know, so I got distracted. There's a child come in and shouted me there. I'm just hoping they're remembering. I told them I was on the show there.
Don't worry.
So, yeah, embodied character. And so what I do with people is say, well, I'd say to them, well, start to begin weaving a bit more embodied character into what you're doing without even your sounding, just even in your speech. This is about improving your spelling. You know, we spell our words because all our words are spells, and a spell is a word or phrase of magical effect. And all spells of worthwhile magical effect change the world in some way. So if your spells aren't working, they need a bit more charge. They need a bit more oomph. They need a bit more feeling, you know, and they need a bit more embodied character because it's the characters that actually make up the words. And when we're just talking about them, not with them, you know, actually with them, no wonder they don't work. No
but
wonder
also, you're talking about embodied, and a lot of people are not in their body, you know, and by doing the inner toning and the deeper sounds brings you into your body so you can feel and deal with these things, you know.
Absolutely. I mean, I feel like the on the end, so I don't get people to stick an on the end of a vowel. So if we're doing an we're doing an ooh or whatever, normally I'll say to them, right, we're just doing the character. We're not going to stick an on until we've got a resonance that's worth internalizing. Let's work a bit, get a lovely harmony, and then when it's feeling sweet, like a nice meal. So the is when you've got this beautiful shift that's happened. That's what you want to carry deep inside, just like the of a nice meal. So a lot of people out there I know use the for when they've run out of breath. And it's like, that's not when it's for. It needs to be an active part of your sound. Make sure you've got plenty of oomph left for your to really make it strong. It should be as active as your or your ooh, and bring that deep. And what you were talking about earlier, Andrena, where you direct the sound to different parts of the body. An active at the end of any vowel pair or vowel set, it really becomes clear which part of the body wants it. Once you've got, and so it doesn't matter which vowel it is you've used, if you get a strong on the end and you're nice and vertically aligned, parts of the body start to scream out for it, and people will start to learn and feel how you direct the vibration of that into the parts that are calling for it. It's really it's a lived experience thing. It's not a theory. You have to go and do it and feel it, but it ties in with exactly what you were saying earlier about directing the sound in different ways. And I found that if people aren't sure what that means yet, when you go and genuinely let rip with your or your ooh, like the of pain or the ooh of the of a nice meal, you properly let go with it, you will feel a difference in how it feels in the body when you're sounding. And so when you do your afterwards, you'll start to notice the difference in the body where it starts to feel hollow, like it wants that vibration or whatever. And you'll find you'll be quite easily be able to direct your at-ums in that direction. And this is, to me, this is getting to know how to play our organs. You know, this is it. And the sounds inside, we can move the organs. There's actually a number of points in your body of pure tone. We're almost like a recorder. So when we're doing scales through the body up and down, or we're doing mantras up and down through the body, it's really interesting to always try and find that place of pure tone, because there's many in the body. And in a way, if you were a recorder, these would be like the little holes on the recorder. So really useful for anybody out there to find that in them, because then you can start to master your transitions as well, because transitions between the tones are often where we get a bit half-hearted, because it's like, oh, it sounds distorted, it feels wobbly, my voice is cracking or whatever. But by finding the tone points, we can start to courageously journey that 7 point whatever centimeters you were talking about, and start to get more competent and confident in our composing of ourselves, in our conduct.
And it's all about like fine tuning our body, isn't it? You know, we are the instruments, so we're tuning ourselves all the time.
We are tuning. Yeah, we're getting in tune. That's it. We're getting tuned in. Yeah. I mean, we use the words anyway.
And you know, you don't always realize, you say, well, you know, if I tune in, that's, you know, it could be tuning in sound wise, but actually tuning into your own inner being.
Exactly. And for me, for anything, so like you say, so many people, you know them, I know them, people who say, oh, I'm getting tuned in, and they'll be sitting there, but it'll be a mental process. They're not actually embodying it. Yeah. And I think for what I've discovered in recent years is absolutely everything in the spiritual, the mental, and even the therapeutic spheres, they all require or have some aspect that is embodied that we need to find. Otherwise, we're not planting it in soil. You know, it's not being properly grounded yet. And even if we've not found it yet for whatever aspect or concept or knowledge, for me, it will come, because I've found it with every single thing. It's like, no, until it's rooted in embodiment, we're kind of getting away from ourselves. You know, we're literally getting away from ourselves. Yeah.
So where does color, like for me, with the voice work, each note relates to a star sign and a color. So I, you know, and obviously that's how I've worked all this time. So how does color work for you within the sounds?
Well, this is an interesting one for me, because I'm a bit of a bloke when it comes to this, and my kind of color sensitivity isn't great. But one of the number one bits of feedback I get with sounding with people is I do a gentle open-eyed meditation to bring them out of the state, to try and maintain the state of depth found in sound into open-eyed perception. And the number one thing that people comment on is that colors are brighter. Number one thing, colors are brighter, it's more vivid. And but it's funny, what I do have to say on color relates to my work with nature spirits and divas and things like that. And I remember a connection I had from their perspective. So to me, when I say nature spirits, what I mean is the awarenesses of that maintain the forms. So it's like, so to me, I'm not maintaining my form here. I'm inhabiting it, but I'm not maintaining it. You know, there's an aspect of the earth's manifestation that's maintaining that. And when my spirit leaves it, it's going to go back to the earth at that point. But there's something, so the notion to me of they're like the blueprint keepers. And in our mythology, they're kind of like the gnome is a good metaphor for what I mean by it, where it's like, it's the keeper of the structure of the forms, you know? So, and when I had interactions with them, they were sharing with me that they see sound and hear color, and we're on the other side of the spectrum where we hear sound and see color. And for me, my journey with color has been more in that pathway where sound and color start to become synesthetic. You know, there's like a merging of them, and I can't start to tell the difference anymore between sound and color and which one gives rise to the other. Sorry, this is my experience. Yeah.
No, you know, because that was the way I was taught in America. You know, the star sign, like I'm a Scorpio, and the note of Scorpio, you know, if you work it as a basis, is aqua blue. Well, I've got so many things aqua blue. I absolutely love it. So, you know, and interestingly, I've sort of worked with a lady, and she said, oh, what's my color? I'm a Leo. And I said, oh, that's yellow. And she said, oh, I bought a yellow car. And I said, well, you're in tune with your own self, like, you know.
Yes, yes. I mean, and also the chakra colors as well. And again, I think this is just ancient wisdom and natural alignment, you know, getting to know our vessel. Because I'm the same, there's certain colors I've just favored in my life. And while I haven't been conscious of it, there's no doubt that if I was perhaps a bit more conscious, I could play to my strengths more in that respect. Yeah. So do you actively use color with your sound with people? Because I like that notion, because I've done in some of the work I've done with certain mediums groups, I've loved this color sessions I've sat in on, but I've never actually thought about incorporating the two in a session.
Yeah, because if you look at the scale of the chakras, which is the same as the star sign. So if we start at C, which is Aries, is the color red, is the root chakra. So like obviously when we come up, I'm Scorpio, blue, which is all about throat, communication and voice. So, you know, all ties in. So when I start with anybody toning, I get them to bring in the pure consciousness of the color red from Mother Earth, and to bring it all the way up through and around them, and then tone that note. And then when we move on to the next, like C chart, which is Taurus, to bring that color in, and from, you know, but it's always the pure consciousness of the color red, the color yellow. And then so you've got that in your field as you're toning. So that's how I work with color.
I love it, because I'm reflecting, as you were speaking there, I was reflecting on all the sort of alignment and sound meditations I've led over the last sort of, you know, 16 plus years, and realized, wow, I've been colorblind. It's like, because it's all about bringing the soul into alignment, the emotion, bringing all these things into alignment. But I've realized, you know, it's always been with either, you know, homogeneous light or no color reference. I'm really loving this kind of thing. It's just, it feels supremely integrating. Again, embodying, you know, there's something embodying about bringing color into it because of the manifest nature of color.
And it's interesting, some people that haven't got their note don't like that color. So if they're missing a note, is through trauma at birth or something. So what I say, so if we use the Aries, then wear red, put a red scarf around you, start wearing that color. You know, people say, oh, I keep getting drawn to that color. Well, you need that frequency, you know, it's that color vibration.
Yes. It's I remember doing an exercise again in one of the mediums groups I was teaching a couple of months ago, and they did a color session where there was a lot of different colored scarves brought in, and it was closed eye exercise to notice the difference of how it felt putting the different scarves on it. It was amazing the number of people that, as in everybody, even though they had no awareness of the color that was on them, that it had a difference in how they felt, because it's not just about how you feel about the color. It's about the fact that the color has an effect. The color is a thing that impacts his environment like anything else. It was quite mind-blowing. And now it makes perfect sense to weave it in with sound in this way, because it's obviously, it is about how can we enable that change of state to be as straightforward as possible.
Andrena, you might as well give us a taste for the other star signs.
Yeah.
Colors.
All right.
You're in your Aries red. What's Aquarius? What's the color of Aquarius? That's my one.
Oh God, let me think. So if we go up, we've got Aries, which is red. We've got what's next? I can't even think of my
we put you on the spot now. We put you on the spot.
Yeah. Hang on a minute. Just talk amongst yourselves.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I didn't realize what a colorblind bloke I was until the last 10 minutes.
You want to know colorblind? I'll tell you colorblind. I was driving up from I'll take her out, from my sister's place in Central Coast, and I was coming up at night, and there was rain, and it was dark as anything between Coffs Harbour and Grafton. Anybody who's driven that road would understand there's no traffic lights. And it was frightful because you got all the semi trucks coming from Brisbane, and Coffs Harbour is about equidistant for the trucks coming from Coffs Harbour and Sydney coming in, boom, and you got them blasting with big headlights. They got all their lights all over the truck to lit them up like a Christmas tree, and it's raining like anything, and it's really, really difficult to see him. So I was pulling over, and anyway, I got home, and then I was saying to a couple of the boys here, I said, bloody eyesight's a bit shocker. And one of the boys said, oh, go over to see this optometrist. They do bulk bills. So I go over there, and the guy says, mate, you got cataract problems. So I said, oh, okay. So he sent me off to the referral. So I had my right eye done. And this is going to be really interesting, brother. Anyway, so it only takes like really 20 minutes. They just cut there and vacuum put a new one in, you know. So after a couple of days, they get the nurse ringing me up and said, how's it going? I said, you tell Mark, baby, because that's the doctor, Mark, but, you know, hey, you tell Mark, baby, he's gave me a female eye. I said, what do you mean? I said, for the very first time, these females, they talk about all these different colors of red, you know, citrus and the bloody, magnolias and all these other different shades of red. I said, now I understand. Nothing else. And so the right eye was just fantastic. All these color shades of reds and the blues and the greens. It was absolutely magnificent. And then, of course, I'm looking through my left eye, which is normal, and I'm thinking, oh, my God. And now I can understand why males, you know, have 16 bloody colors, you know, base colors. They really don't see all the different shades. And so, you know, it was a real experience for me, mate. So, if you can't see all those shades, you need to go and see an ophthalmologist and go and get some cataracts done.
Find a female going to swap eyes. It's like, do you want to swap an eye? Do you want some like distilled 16 color for a bit in one side, and I'll swap you for some full spectrum?
No, that's like Macbeth and those three witches and the sharing the eye there, brother.
Yeah.
But anyway, I said to Mark, I said, how come you have to wear sunglasses? I said, mate, you don't have to wear sunglasses. These days, when they do the cataracts, they've got UV in them, so you don't need sunglasses. I said, oh, very good. Anyway, we talked so we can get Andrena back on. Yeah.
Because
great segue.
With the virus and all sorts of things, I've sort of stepped back from doing sound work. So I've just been playing with my instruments, and I did a workshop with that. So if I go through the notes for each person, so C is Aries, which is the color red. C sharp is Taurus, so that's an orangey red. So I'm more of an orangey red. D is Gemini, which is orange. So I'm working on the lower chakras, if you like. Cancer is yellowy orange, and Leo is E, which is yellow. F is Virgo, and that's sort of a yellow green. It's and then you've got F sharp for the heart, which is like the color of grass. Then you've got G, which is Scorpio, which is aqua blue. Then you've got Saggy, which is a deep royal blue, and that's G sharp. Capricorns are the note of A, and they're the color violet. And what else have we got here? Aquarius is purple, and that's the note of A sharp. And Pisces is B, and it's the color magenta. I can find a little chart to show people, and it shows just a body, and then it shows like each chakra with each note and each color. So
I mean, it's just amazing distilled wisdom. Amazing.
So, it's bringing those notes back into your body with the color, and through trauma and what have you. People are frightened to express themselves, and I put on my website, it's not no singing required, because that's the first thing people say is about singing. And I say, I sing, but I'm still working on the singing. So, and that's
not the immediate offer. Wonderful. Well, you've really opened my eyes to some color incorporation in these last 15 minutes, I have to say.
I've learned from you, so it was a perfect timing for you to come on and share about sound. So
it's lovely to get that. I'm just awash with color at the minute. I'm a bit like my cogs are running away on color now.
Well, you're wearing the Saggy color today, so you're working on G sharp.
It must be. That's it. It's just come alive. Yeah, and I went through a long period of wearing purple actually, so it was interesting to see that Aquarius is purple there. Julia actually shared a mention there that.
I've worked with Julia in Australia. I've done a lot of her singing workshops. So
great. Well, thanks, Julia, for coming.
Yeah. Well, there you go.
There we go. That's goodness me. What a share.
Well, I think you've answered a lot and shared a lot and given me more to think about when I'm sat here doing some toning. So
yes. And anyone out there listening, own it. If you're going to sound, make a proper sound. Just think, I'm just going to play with this character. You know, I'm going to play with this letter of the alphabet and see what it feels like. And just give yourself that freedom. You know, give yourself the freedom to reclaim it, because it's a natural part of our heritage and a natural part of our power. Yeah, I like to think we're all kind of sonic gardeners.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, we're the lost sonic gardeners that have to find our way back to sharing our sounds freely with the earth and with love. Yeah,
and sharing. You know, and I mean, like children, they're so vocal. They sing and dance and they'll scream like you know, like people have said to me in the past, it's good to scream and get it out. I said, I can't even scream, but if you put me on a roller coaster, I know I would scream because
yes, you've got it in
I would find my voice then. Oh my God. Anyway, we won't go there. I'm not going on any of them.
No, I don't do them either.
I did in my youth, but not anymore. Flip.
Me too. My kids have been trying to entice me on. I'm like, no. My days of that, no.
Yeah.
Hey,
those things are gone.
Yeah.
Just coming back to running a bath and laying in the bath and just dropping your ears under the water and then playing with sound. There's a place in Glastonbury. It's in the Glastonbury Abbey, and there's the kitchen. When you go in there, there's a couple of sweet spots. There's one directly right under the apex of the roof linement, and you can actually get in there and you can tone away. The sound's pretty awesome, and yet you can go into these corners, and your sound is completely dead. It just doesn't go anywhere.
It's amazing.
And, that's one spot. But there's another spot in Glastonbury. It's in the White Well.
White Springs.
The White Springs, yeah. So I went there with Willem one day, and we were there, and it took a while just walking around to find the spot. But when we did, what an awesome spot that was. And so that's two. And then, of course, there's another place in Somerset called Wedmore, and there's these churches that they build on ley lines, and you can get there, and you can hear all those choristers, singing like you see in the big abbey and the cathedrals. But in those little stone churches, you can get around there, and you can do an amen, because then everybody outside thinks you're Church of England singing away, and then you find the spot, and then you get into it. So, but I tell you one that's right out of left field, is when you get into the stairwells of high-rise buildings or in the multi-story car parks, and where the stairs go, like, boom, 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 boom. So if you get in the bottom there and you just tone, that sound travels up there like the spiral in the DNA.
Wow.
Yeah, really awesome.
Yeah, that's cool. I'm well up for trying that. And anybody out there who's got a yurt, anyone with a yurt, I believe they are sonic structures. If you get under the crown of the yurt and get everybody out, you can't have it full of people because it's basically a speaker. It's like a speaker cone. And if you stand under the middle of it, you get a wall of sound around you. It really is phenomenal. Any well-built yurt will do it. I've experimented in a number of them. And there's something to do with the way they are designed. They are like sound temples, mobile sound temples. So anyone get out into your yurt, right under the crown, have a go.
There's another spot for people who live in Queensland, New South Wales, and that's the Byron Bay Lighthouse.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you pay a few coins to get in there for a bit of a tour, but if you get in there and you're going to play there, it's a really great ambient awareness. You feel like you're in a big sound bath. just finding them spots, isn't it?
It is, and there's so many ancient structures were built around sound. Most of the pyramids are all sound. The sarcophaguses are amazing to sneak into and sound in. You know, all the ancient sites. Machu Picchu had amazing sound crenellations that allowed sound to travel all the way around them. I've not been to an ancient site that doesn't have a sound link in it somewhere, or something to do with sound in its structure, or a space for sacred sounding in it.
Hey, Andrena, your sister Carol, I think, was talking about that guy who took all the acoustics. Is it Reed? Is it?
Oh, John Reed. Yeah, we did a workshop with him. Oh God, in the dark ages now. Yeah, that was interesting because he's very into
Yeah, because he was in the pyramids when he was on that.
He invented the time stone, didn't he?
King's or Queen's chamber, wasn't it? And he played around there in the boom boom.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I found, I had some interesting experiments in those chambers. Yeah, very much so. But I found, like the King's Chamber for me, it doesn't need a lot of noise. It actually operates on, it's more about, it was really interesting. It's so interesting how they're all different structures, keyed to different things. Fascinating. Well worth going and experiencing, anyone. And if you get to the King's Chamber, if you've not been, get in the sarcophagus and do some sounding.
It's on my to-do list, but even if you go to Bath Spa in the Roman baths in the
go on, you go. Go on.
They're really powerful to tone in. You know, they're like just a sonic chamber. But
and there's something you can get used of. Can you get used of it to go and sound in it, or is there going to be others in there at the same time?
You just do it. You don't ask. You just sit in there and sound. And people
the glass, the circles, the circular motion, the glass, and they've got aromatherapy fragrances in them. So you can go from one. They're actually steam rooms, basically, isn't it? And you go there, and they've got seating around them. Yeah. I played with that one, and it was really massive.
But interestingly, the lambs have just started off here. There's 3 black lambs here, and they're I think they're about 3 months old now. But talk about vocal. Oh my God, they are so loud. But they don't say ba, they say ma. I've never realized that before because you know, not sort of really been around lambs, but oh my God, they go ma all the time. And it's not ba, so I don't know where that came in.
Yeah, so, it's funny. It's like different languages have different ways of making the animal sounds. So like we see moo, but in the Czech Republic we say boo. And it's like, well, we're just trying to recreate that sound, but it's, you know, they're just words at the end of the day, though, aren't they? Whereas, like you say, you get more of the embodied sound, that's worth more.
Yeah. And also, Andrew put about the 111 frequency, which, so, you know, the Solfeggio numbers.
Yep.
Right. Well, in between each of those, so in between 528, 639, 7, blah, blah, and whichever way you go is 111 between every one of those numbers.
Got you. Okay, the interval, right?
Which is very powerful.
Yes, I didn't know that.
And I do have a 111 tuning fork, which is very big.
And then, what do you notice with it? Is it powerful?
It's a very deep sound. I mean, I don't know whether you'll hear it over the airwaves. Hold on.
And even if your mic can pick it up, our speakers might not.
I see the lady Carol came back and said that guy John Reed, you put this, I put it up there now. The sand from the desert, rearranged itself in the Egyptian hieroglyphics. How impressive that,
That is mind-boggling. Oh, I can hear something.
Yeah. No, that we don't mess about here. This is my 111.
Wow.
So, hang on. If I go on, I don't know where my stick is. Oh, here it is. I don't know how it come across, but
you can hear that.
Ooh.
So,
I like that. That's a nice deep note. Yes. Oof.
Yeah. So it's still going on, but anyway, yeah, it's a deep note. So, but yeah, that's interesting. If you look up about the 111.
Yeah, I'm just putting it in another tab, so don't forget.
Yeah. I did.
Give it another gong, mate. Give it another blow. I can't hear it now.
Yes.
No, I can, but
can you?
Yeah, I
was
go
looking into a better microphone for picking up some of the broader tones that are below and above the normal pickups. They're expensive, and then I thought, even if I capture it, other people's speakers aren't going to be able to output them. No. Sadly, the kind of the real power and magic of sound work cannot be transferred over the waves as yet. It has to be done in presence, sharing a field with others, and feeling that effortless connection and unity that only the sort of group presence field can bring. But
also, I think it was Carol. She had a shoulder ache or a pain in the neck years ago, and I literally toned into her shoulder and did it a few times, which shifted the pain out. So that's something else that people can do, is tone into somebody, depending on where they've got whatever's going on, but you can tone into your arm. Absolutely. Or if you bang your arm, just tone away just to clear the vibrations.
Character medicine, launch a character out. We don't need a whole spell for this. We just need one character. Throw one character at it. Let's not overcomplicate it.
I'm going to change the subject somewhat.
Go on, then. We're going to have to wrap up soon anyway.
English language spoken by different ethnic synchronies, or like if you have the French speaking English, or you have the German speaking English, or the Dutch speaking English, or the Scandinavian speaking English, or the American English, or the Canadian English, and the Singapore English, Kiwi English, Aussie English, the phraseology and the intonation and the inflection in the voices, it can really, sometimes they can feel like fingernails going down the blackboard, isn't it?
I know what you mean. Yeah.
So what have you investigated, or what have you come up with when it comes to that manager?
Well, my kind of, this is in linguistics, accent is perhaps a great mystery still. There is no, as far as I'm aware, there's no sound theory for accent as yet. And for me, in my journeying, the only thing I've come up with is that the land seems to produce it in the same way that it produces fruit varieties, English strawberries, Scottish raspberries, things like that. Because I was moving around a fair bit when some of my children were babies, and I'm Scottish. My partner at the time was Czech, and we had a child, a toddler, who was only really mingling with us and some of our circles of friends, and yet still starting to sound like a Herefordshire farmer when she was talking. And it was like, well, how could she have this? She's not been around people with those accents. I've got my accent, partner's got a Czech English accent. The other people around were from different parts. It was a little community project, so there were from people from all over the place. And yet still, she was starting to speak like a local. It was just bizarre. That was where I kind of got that. Now she had one day a week of nursery or something like that, but they were all pre-verbal kids. It was a bizarre thing. So yeah, I think it's a land. But so I think what's happening when we've got, so like for example, German and Scottish both have quite harsh gutturals in them. So we find certain languages easier, and we'll sound better speaking each other's languages than some of the softer languages would do. And I wonder if it's just related to that some of the more feeling languages, like maybe French and Italian, don't maybe sound so good, and some of the more sort of pointy languages, like or accents like German and Scottish. I haven't thought into it that much, but your point there, Jeff, about where some speaking it as a second language sound lovely and some sound awful, is pretty much nail on the head. It really is. Yeah, and I think maybe it does tie in with that accent mystery, because there doesn't seem to be any escaping it, does there?
So that's the actual thing that's impacting on our ear or our hearing is the fact that, yeah, they might be working in F sharp or whatever for Sagittarians, and they might be working in A sharp for Aquarians. But because they might be, as you say, they could be a Polish accent English or Polish English. It just may, it just doesn't.
Yeah,
just doesn't.
It's like because I learned a bit of Czech when I was with my partner there, and I noticed they kind of don't like vowels very much. As Slavic languages, they're not vowel fans. They like lots of consonants next to each other, and I found it interesting to notice that. It's like different languages have different. It's like they favor certain character pairs. They favor relationships between certain characters. Whereas so in Czech you'll see certain consonants together that you just never put together in English. It's like no, those characters do not hang out together. What are you doing? And we know it's not our language. And I wonder if that also impacts our ability to speak other languages, is how easy it is for us to get those characters to work together. Yeah, what baffles me is, and this is really mind blowing. Again, and it shows that language complexity is that, say in Europe, you've got I don't know how many countries, 30 countries or something like that, and they're all using the same alphabet, basically, just a few variations, 26 characters, lower and uppercase, and none of them can understand each other. It's just mind boggling. Well, they've got the same character set. It's absolutely mind blowing. But what I love about the character work is it's like, but we're through the same on the character level, because when I go and when you go it means the same thing.
I'll tell you one other thing is why I think it's important that everybody should practice the vowel sounds and play around with it. Is when I worked with clients and they've had notes missing. For example, one guy said he couldn't let go of his wife or his partner. And I went, oh, lucky you, and laughed. And this is when I had a huge ding dong moment. And I said, well, what's their star sign? So, for example, say they were a Scorpion, a Saggy, which is G and G sharp. When I looked at his chart that we'd worked with, he was missing both of those notes. So he was coming from a place of need because he needed those frequencies that they had, which he didn't have in himself. Yeah. So he came back 4 weeks later, and I knew which one was the girlfriend, which was, say, the girlfriend's note was Scorpio and the wife was Saggy. When we did his voice again, I could tell that the note was much stronger in the girlfriend's note. So I said, how's things going? And he said, oh, good. So I said, with the girlfriend, he said, oh, we're really getting along well. And he said, and I said, the wife, he said, oh, yeah, that's much better than it was. So I knew. But so he was coming from a place of need. And I say to all my friends, tone your notes, keep that strong, because you're coming from a place of power and not from a needy place. And you can hear that in people's voices when they're, their voice is not strong or powerful, their tone, their sound. It's fascinating.
And it's a bit like if you were somebody that was taking care of your body in other ways as well, you wouldn't just work your legs, you would work your arms and your legs, And it's just exactly the sound, isn't it? It's like, you're not just going to work your left arm and leave the rest.
Like a puppet, eh?
Exactly. And yet, in a way, what you're discovering is that's what people have done. It's like, oh, we're in this position because you've had one arm tied behind your back your whole life. It's like, so we try, and you can't expect when you untie it that it's going to be strong straight away. So just be kind with it, isn't it? As we start to build it up and like you say, bring our full power to bear.
So what we're saying, summarizing, is that you can have relationships with people who you have a cacophony of voices that fills this orchestra, and you can be attracted to people because their tone of their voice.
That's right.
It's like a moth to a light. Yeah.
Do you know, Jeff, it's a beautiful way you put it there. There's one of my favorite esoteric authors from the 1920s. She was talking about this time and talking about people coming in to bring change. And she said this beautiful thing, and it's a line that stuck with me. And she said, they will recognize each other by their tone. Yeah. So that's why, and I find that, and it's like, I don't need to hear the detail of a lot of the things that people are offering for me to know whether I want to lock in with it, because I'll know within seconds. It's in the tone, it's in the note, it's right there. It's like, yes, I'm in with this, or no, that's not for me. Yeah, amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, I've seen a question there from Andrew. It says, have you done any work under dolmens, and what do I like to do? Yeah, we've got a minute to answer that. Yeah, I do. I love, and not just under dolmens. I mean, I encourage sounding in all parts of nature. So take it with you everywhere. Offer sounds, and offer your own joy or experimentation just to the space that you're in, or offer vocal response to plants and things that you interact with. Because the biofeedback you can get from nature is magic. You know, you just have to open yourself to the magic and get some real personal interactions. So I think we should carry our sound everywhere, but especially dolmens and other structures that our ancestors placed in places of importance. So what I do first of all is I'll usually look for the area that is of seeming focus importance, you know, and get myself into that. And I'll stop and I'll make sure I've got my eyes shut for a good few minutes. Doesn't matter how many people are there or all the rest of it. Got to get tuned in, as Andrena would say. First of all, tuned in to feel and orient myself in the space. And then what I'll usually do is just, you know, almost make an offer, because to me this is what offerings are. You know, I make offerings when I go. That's the answer. I make offerings. I make offerings of sound. I'll make offerings of scents that I like, or I'll often take things. So if it's a place that I want to go and work in future and I want to build a relationship with, then I'll take things that I have come to understand are of value to the natural environment, which is new smells, new structures. Like this is where salt and other things come from, and even diatomaceous earth I like to take, because it offers new structure, new code to that area. In the same way as we might be stunned by the first time we ever have a mango that's come from the other side of the world, we'd just be stunned by this fruit that's just so different from the local apple. This is what it's like when we offer new shapes or sounds or smells into the places we wish to honor in nature. So I always like to choose things that I love. And so I'll take things that I love, and it's offered from a place of, hey, I love this and I want to share it with you, you know. And so from a place of offering, I will feel out what sound just comes as it seems to feel like it wants to come out, and I'll make an offering of that sound, which is just to make the sound for myself in the space. But it's always looking for that immediate biofeedback, as in it's almost like I feel like a bit like a bat echolocating to find out what sound is being asked for in the space. And so I'll often run through a few sounds, and what I'm actually trying to do is to find out which part within me resonates with this space. Because this is what, so when I discovered this when I was working with the pyramids. I spent quite a lot of time well, relatively speaking, quite a fair amount of time sounding in sarcophaguses and pyramids across Egypt, and found that what made them work, as in what made them activate, which means you get a standing wave or you get a repeatable change in state. So standing wave is when the whole place comes alive with vibration, and it's like the walls, the air, and the sounder are all at the same rate. They like all dissolve into one field, and it's like the sounder is gone, and there's just the breath of maintaining the sound. So getting into the standing wave, I managed to achieve that in a few pyramids, which is really something. And what I found is that to get that, and I've now achieved it in some certain natural places as well, caves and whatnot, and it is that it's like you need to find the mineral that is in the environment around you that can vibrate within you. And it's the thing, you directing sound from and in there activates the resonance in the space, and you get activation. So and it's not, I found it's not about volume. For example, the Great Pyramid, I found that the most effective thing there was like a sound on the edge where breath and sound meet was what worked there. But in other places, it's something else. So the real thing is to play, experiment, and see if you can find what that place wants. So you can either go just in, if it's a place that was used for sound, then I recommend what I was just saying, try and find the resonance. If you're going, you just want to share, then go from that place of making an offering, seeing how the nature responds, and then, you know, see what happens. It's like going for a walk, isn't it? You don't think about the second step after the first step.
Mm.
The fingers go after each other. Bring that into your sound and make the first one an intuitive response, and after that, play and explore until you find really what works for you. Because to me, as Westerners on these lands in our old ancestral spaces, we're having to rediscover and remake our songs, rediscover and remake our chants, the words that we might build out of these character building blocks. And so that's what I'm seeking, and that's what I invite you to do as well. Find your songs in nature by offering character and seeing how nature invites you to stick them together. And that's what makes it fun.
Especially doing it with a tree, sit by a tree and just tone. It's powerful.
Absolutely. Trees will quiver in delight at you sharing their sound with you.
Last week, in Australia here, we had NAIDOC, which is Indigenous Week. And I went off to one just down the road here at Beenleigh at the historical village. And it was a cultural day where they had 3 different dance groups from the Aborigine community. And they all come up to do a dance that would probably go for 3 or 4 minutes at a time. And each one was a dance that represented a member of the animal kingdom. So you had the kangaroo, the Deojee, which is like a mammal in the water, the kookaburra, the wood pigeon, and just think of all the different animals. Emu. Yeah, so the dance and the stuff, I mean, there's nothing better than having the didgeridoo and the clapsticks and the boys doing their tones. Yeah, it's spellbinding, isn't it? So I think that answers your question, because it brings another question. Is English the main language that we should be using in order to get our message across? Because we've actually discussed English being spoken from different countries whose English is not their mother tongue. I mean, there was a time there people said, "Oh, Esperanto would be the language we should be using." But when you go back through history and you see the language of the Egyptians and the Israelites, or the Greek, or the Hindu, I mean, there must have been a sacred language, or not a sacred language, but a language that came from the stars.
Yeah,
that everybody utilized because it had a tone to it that obviously helped them to manifest what they required from the ethers.
If I answer that, Jeff, you're going to end up having to invite me back for another show. Because there's no way I can answer that in the sort of time we have left here today. That's for sure. But for me, that is a great question, and it is a great mystery to that, and I do have quite an answer to it. But I do actually believe
Sanskrit. Yeah, right. That's right.
The seed of the language we should be using, but I don't think it is the language you should be using. I think it can become it, but it isn't it. But the thing here as well is there's an element of, so like Esperanto is a good example where somebody tried to come up with a solution. And in fact, the Cyrillic alphabet the Russians use, that is also a constructed solution. Latin was a constructed solution. And what we've seen with all constructed solutions is that they're capped. They have a bandwidth. They only go so far. They're not integrating enough. And I think when we're talking about human communication, to me, the greatest mystery and puzzle of communication is the fact that humans don't agree on anything as a species because of the need for translation. We don't even agree on a name for what we are as a species because of this babble thing of us all speaking different languages. And for me, there is rather than constructing an answer, what I try and do is look for the patterns that are already there. Because what I've found is we're not here to try and force the world and bend it under our will, although we may try that at first. For me, what I've found now is I'm much more trying to respond to what the world is trying to show and encourage from me. And so when I'm looking at the sound work and also the language, because I do stuff on language development and the evolution of language. That's why I said this is a whole conversation that maybe you didn't know this was a can of worms you might open on me, because I do a lot about what language can evolve into and how important it is for us to evolve language as a part of our upgrade. You know, it's like we understand an upgrade in an operating system and all the rest of it, and we've upgraded our sensory systems and our awareness systems in recent generations, but the language, the thing which refers to experience and refers from experience, hasn't updated. And it kind of needs to, and that's why we have so many people struggling to refer to vast experiences in any meaningful way, because we just don't have the ability to refer to it, which is what you need a language for. So I do think English is, and Spanish and Mandarin are the dominant patterns in the world, you know, to recognize, as in what has taken root either organically or artificially and spread like wildfire. Because in a way, language you can't enforce on people, although maybe the English did try that. It kind of has to be owned. It has to be organic. People have to want it and enjoy it. It's like somebody mentioned in the chat about the kids getting rid of vowels now, and in certain ways that they're playing with sound. And I love that in a way, because not that they're losing the vowels, but that there's a playfulness coming into it, because what it shows is the language is alive. And as long as a language is alive, there is a hope for it to keep growing. So what I mean by it, I have this out with it, I upset quite a few people sometimes by telling them that the language is dead. And most of the languages in the world are dead. And what I mean by that is the people who are native speakers cannot come up with new words within that language to express modern concepts coming in. And what you'll find is in a lot of these languages, they will use the English word and they'll stick a local prefix or suffix on. So they'll take like an Italian or a Spanish or a Czech, and they'll take a suffix or a prefix that makes it sound Italian or sound Spanish or sound whatever, but actually it's just the new conceptualized English or Spanish word or whatever that's then just been given a flavor of their language. So there's very, very few, as far as I'm concerned, living languages. You know, I'm all about the living word. That's what all my sound stuff is. That's why people won't find stuff written about me online. I'm not very good at representing myself. I'm good at presenting. I'm good at living language, the whole of this form and how it uses tone, timing, spell, reference, all the rest of it. That's my area. Typing things and doing all that sort of stuff is just not my strength at all. I lost my thread there, but
I'm with you there.
Yeah, we understand.
Yeah, language evolution. So anyway, for people who are interested in our language, and anyone who's interested in the Sumerian tablets, the stories of Enki and Enlil, and all this sort of stuff, I think it ties in with our language, and I think it was encoded, and that's why it's emerged in the way that it has. So, in our suffix, in our language, English, which, by the way, people say it as if it begins with the letter I. They say English. It's not English. It's English. Nobody speaks it properly, right? What I'm talking about is learning to speak English properly, not just by looking at what's written down, though. There's much more to it than that. There's a way this can evolve that really will blow some people's minds. But in our language, the suffix ish means kind of like or diminutive of. Ish. That's ish is kind of like. English is kind of like English. And what our language can become is a thing that I call Engel, which is language of angels, masters, telepathy, all sorts of stuff. And it's in our language, but it's about us solving the relationship between the capital letters and the lowercase letters. We've been robbed of our ability to understand how to use capital character and how it relates to lowercase characters. Here's what happens in English, and this is why English is a nightmare to learn. It's only 15% written how it's said, and it's because it's like a bunch of kids overheard the grown-ups talking and tried to scratch it down, and that's what we call English, as far as I'm concerned. So here's what the puzzle is. Here's what's wrong with our language. So you get taught two ways of saying the alphabet. Uppercase A, B, C, D, E, F, G, lowercase A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Yeah, everyone got that? Yes. But what you don't get, what you're told though, is but but you're only allowed to use one of them when you're writing. The other one, in our capitalist world, you're not allowed to use capitals. You're told they're only for the beginning of place names only. That's it. And it's like, where did this rule come from? There is no foundation or basis for that rule anywhere. Anywhere. It's like the coloring of the masculine I was talking about last time. Some of this stuff is huge. Our capitalist culture is related to the throttling of our ability to understand capital character, what that means in our mind, in our spirit, in our consciousness, as well as capital sound. Now, here's the crazy thing, and this is why we have to use lots of lowercase letters that don't sound anything like that when we're speaking. You know, we use so many. It's like there's so many. That's why it makes it so difficult for people to learn English. But what is really interesting is we're told we're not allowed to use the capitals in writing, but we use their sounds all the time. All the time, we use uppercase and lowercase all the time, but we don't write it. And the work I do on evolving language is how we can actually do that in an ordered way. And it basically, so when most people are talking about learning languages or whatever, so if you imagine that the mind is a bit like a computer, and the language that you're using is your main operating system, and that you can learn other languages as other operating systems or applications in your operating system there. But all of those operating systems across Europe and the Western world are all using the same machine code of the alphabet. So you can install all the different applications you want on your computer and it stays the same in its performance. You make a machine code upgrade and everything changes. It all improves, all of it. What we're talking about here is a machine code upgrade to our understanding of language in a way that it will fulfill what you were talking about, Jeff, when you opened this can of worms 10 minutes ago, which was
Yeah.
the language as we've got it is not fit for purpose, but the building blocks within it are. And by understanding what I call character development, we can start to understand how to use it in a way that actually changes our experience of space, time, and consciousness, builds pathways that can lead up to actual active telepathy and change the way we can receive transmissions from elsewhere, because we change the shape of our mind into one which can receive the transmissions and the frequencies that are already out there, and into one that can broadcast from the one that we're desperately trying to transmit from. But this English overlay creates distortion patterns too. So Engel is what English can become, and I believe it is the tool, but it is where we kind of repair the relationship between uppercase and lowercase. But that is not a conversation I want to start here today. But I did want to drop it here because if anyone's interested, then I've got a whole course on understanding the evolution of language.
Right. Well, that's brilliant. I think we better save that one for another show.
Sorry about that can of worms, Jeff. Jeff, you started that one. I do apologize for the last 10 minutes, everybody, but he did start it. We can finish it there.
Well, no, it's food for thought. It's all good food for thought, and
language is
our awareness.
Well, I'll tell you what, the feedback I've had from this is that people who have used my writing system, dyslexics are no longer dyslexic. People who experience mental confusion are no longer mentally confused. And people have found much more ways of being much more powerful and present in the way that they express and are understood, because it really does resolve a lot of the problems. And in a way, it's stuff that people do anyway. Sorry?
Where do they find this?
The website got taken down recently because I stopped paying for it, but it's going to go back up again. It's going to be on my native reservation website. I'm going to be teaching it as a native Western language for all Europeans, because as long as you can read the alphabet and say the alphabet, you can speak this language perfectly. Anyone in Europe who can say the alphabet will be able to read it perfectly first time.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, but the language is picture. I mean, our internal DNA, if you want to call it such, is bubble memory, and it's filled with pictures, isn't it? So,
it is. It's pictures. And these are, and people don't realize our letters are pictures, and we just didn't know what they were pictures of.
Yes, because if I say to you, Darren, whatever you do, don't slam the door. Right?
Yeah.
But my thought goes quicker than my verbal words. So you receive my telegram, picture telegram.
Yeah.
Of slamming the door. And you'll slam the door. Even though the verbal commanders don't slam it, you've got the picture that shows you slamming the door. So that's where I think our language, we have to be very careful of the words and the choice of words and how we put words together to create sentences and paragraphs, and how we originally started the show about the power of words and how you cast a spell.
Yes. Yep. Here's just one to finish on as well, as how our alphabets are pictures as well. So there is that's the letter C, isn't it? So if I do that in cursive and I do it like this, what does it look like?
Well, it could be waves, or it could be
C. The C is the C.
Oh, yeah, good one.
Okay. And we have not been taught that there is a symbolic origin to the machine code that we live our whole lives by. The story that we tell ourselves about ourselves and our world are built on these, and we know almost nothing about them. It's phenomenal. Anyway.
Okay.
Right.
Have a lovely evening.
That's been brilliant as ever. I mean, we've all learned so much.
Thanks for having me on.
So thank you so much for coming on again and sharing. And I think we best have a language one a little bit further down the track.
A little bit further in the track, or I'll let you know when I republish that, and people can go on that journey of repairing their mind that way.
Yeah, it sounds brilliant.
Yeah, I do call it. It's mental healing. I really mean it. It is mental healing. Yeah.
Yeah, that's lovely. Thanks, Darren, for sharing. It's been a pleasure to have you back.
And you have a great day. Have a great evening. Lovely to connect.
All right, folks. Thank you very much. And we'll have a special guest next Thursday.
And thanks for all the people engaging on the chat there.
No, it's good. Bloody brilliant, mate. Yeah. That's what the show's all about. Dreaming the new dream. Yeah.
That's it. Well, we really touched the edge of that here today.
And loving it, as Maxwell Smart would say. All right.
Have a great one, people. Take care. Much love. See ya.
Thank you. Bye. Bye.